everybody, and welcome to the 13 Plus Oscars prediction show here today. We have a couple people joining us on this panel today, so we're going to start over here. Mr. Nate Bell, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Nate Bell, very excited to be here. What camera am I on? Right there. We're already off to a banger on the start. I'm super excited, love film, love cinema, and ready to talk all things Oscars today.
Perfect. And to my left here, we have a special guest that we have brought in. You will not have seen him on our airwaves, but Mr. Kyle, if you want to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Kyle Macciomei. I'm a guest contributor for the Grand Rapids Film Society, and I've been kind of covering this Oscar tour for the past few months, and very excited for this weekend.
Yeah, perfect. And last but not least, the wickedly talented Julie Koharik on the end.
Yeah, I'm here because they needed someone who liked the Barbie movie, so here I am.
There we go. We're off to a good start. Perfect. Adele Dazeem, yes, she's here with us. So, and I obviously am Erik Howard. So I am an entertainment reporter here at 13 on Your Side. Very excited for this show in particular. Excited to talk about the Oscars coming up on ABC, right on our airwaves. So. Yeah, I think we're ready to just kick it straight off. I don't know if you guys are. So.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start right off. Looks like we're getting started off jumping right into actor in a leading role.
Yes.
I know for me, and I think for a lot of people, this is kind of a two-horse race here between Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti. I personally saw the only actor here that I did not see this year was Colman Domingo. Sorry to Colman Domingo. I apologize for not catching your film.
It's very good.
Yeah, no, I've heard fantastic things. But personally, in my opinion, Cillian Murphy is I think he wins this one, whether it's by a hair over Paul Giamatti, which I love the holdovers. I can't wait to talk a little bit more about that going on later. But I think Cillian just gave an outstanding performance, and as a fan of him for a long time, to see him kind of get his flowers here has been awesome.
I think that's absolutely. I think we all, if I'm not mistaken, are in agreement that Cillian Murphy is winning Best Actor in this race.
It's been such a close race between the two of them. Paul Giamatti and Cillian Murphy both won their retrospective kind of Golden Globes in their different categories of drama and comedy. Then Giamatti won the Critics' Choice Award, and everyone's like, oh, maybe it's moving towards him. Cillian Murphy won the BAFTA, but they always have preferences for the British over there. Then there was kind of the SAG Award, which is the big, like, kind of bellwether, like, test of, like, okay, what are the actors choosing as the one? And they chose Cillian Murphy, and that was kind of a moment to be like, okay, now the two of them are just really well-liked in Hollywood. They've been campaigning really hard. Paul Giamatti went to In-N-Out after he won his Golden Globe, very famous viral video.
Yes.
And so the competition between the two of them with Cillian, I think, in that slight edge.
Yeah. Can agree there. Julie, feeling the same?
I have no thoughts. I really do think it is going to be Cillian Murphy, although I love the holdovers.
Yes.
Yeah. Great performance, and I think what we're going to see in a lot of these categories is if Oppenheimer came out any other year, a lot of these would have a much stronger chance. It's such a strong movie.
That's the tricky part. It's just like Giamatti's performance any other year is it, right? It wins that year, but it was so good, but it's just up against basically an entire powerhouse with that. So I think that locks us in. Yes. So
I think so.
Yeah. So as you can see on screen, panel picks, we are all in agreement on Cillian Murphy winning for Oppenheimer.
So good.
That's off to a good start. We're all in agreement there. I'm waiting for the one that'll eventually topple us all, and the discussion goes crazy. So
good, awesome.
So our next category that we're going into here is actress in a leading role. So this one, I wanted to wait before giving my final verdict until I had seen Poor Things, which I saw last night. And after I did see that, I pretty confidently went in with Lily Gladstone. I had to say, I know Emma Stone's performance in that movie was pretty unbelievable in terms of how much she had to change. But in terms of like a critics movie, that's the real problem, where it's like I feel like Lily Gladstone's performance in Killers of the Flower Moon is like exactly what you're looking for out of a critics, film, where it's that kind of silent, strong performance where really it's just all in the eyes, all in the face, but in kind of these explosions of talent versus kind of like Emma Stone, where you are watching this progression of this character, but it takes you a little while to get there. While it feels like when Lily Gladstone drops right into that, you are just like mesmerized immediately, kind of with all the characters as well, right? You know, they all are talking, you know, her character up as being like, you know, oh, she's from a big family, and you know, she's gorgeous, was married once, and all that, and you're kind of like, yeah, I'm into this like mythos. So I don't know if you guys agreed in the same, or Julie.
I'm pretty confidently saying Lily Gladstone. I read the book Killers of the Flower Moon, which is very true to the script. That's why it's so long, probably. But there's not much on the page to pull from. It's a very cut and dry book and script, and I think just the fact that she was able to take that much off the page without overdoing it. I mean, it's a very understated performance, but it's a very understated script, and I am like very confident in Lily Gladstone.
There was a bit of controversy when she submitted herself into the lead actress category because of the amount of screen time and compared to maybe De Niro and Leo in that film. But that entire campaign, that entire studio essentially backed her, saying she's the heart of this movie, she's the driving force. And even like Leonardo himself, like kind of stepped away in the campaign trail and being like, no, this movie's about her. He didn't even get a nomination, partly because he decided to kind of front her ahead of him. Now, if she had gone into supporting, she probably would have won that handedly, but now she's kind of got this heated race with Emma Stone. Emma Stone, who's already won an Oscar back in 2017 for La La Land, and she gives this huge transformative performance, not only as like the child of Bella Baxter, but then eventually kind of evolving into, you know, later in the film. And Emma Stone just had a child, and so she's definitely taking that kind of childlike quality, internalizing that into her performance. And the question here is do you take someone who's an established powerhouse, or this kind of up and coming, which, you know, significantly would be the first Indigenous woman to ever win in this category. Obviously, that's on Academy voters' minds. They're thinking about it. They're trying to figure out who between these two, and both of them are pretty much in a very tight race, and it's going to be exciting to see. But Lily does seem to have a lot of things that are winning people over.
Yeah, and I think we're all in agreement there then as well, because I'm with Lily Gladstone. I'm a huge fan of Poor Things. That was one of my favorite movies this year. It's at the top of my list. You know, of the Best Picture nominees, it's right up there with any of them. I loved the performance from beginning to end, you know, and like you said, it's very transformative. It starts off in a place that it is completely different from where it ends, and I thought she was incredibly impressive. But Lily Gladstone, to me, as you said, that like subtle performance, you know, she just conveyed all that emotion and all that trauma that she was going through, and her family was going through her expressions, through her emotion. And I think, and Eric and I know we've talked off camera how you know, we thought DiCaprio got kind of snubbed here in the Best Actor category. I think there were times where Lily Gladstone outclassed him in this movie, and I thought there were times where she outclassed De Niro, who I thought was fantastic as well. I was very impressed by her performance, and I see her winning, and I hope that she does.
The movie wouldn't have worked without her.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Well, and it's interesting too, because you know, she was at the last minute kind of decided that she was going to be the heart of this movie and the lead of the movie. The movie was originally written for DiCaprio was going to play Jesse Plemons' character, the FBI agent, and they kind of at the last, you know, Scorsese at the last minute was kind of like, no, I want to focus more on Lily Gladstone, and I'm glad that he made that decision.
Yeah, I think the stat originally was that it was like 5 minutes of screen time or something initially that she had in the first pass through, and I think they all kind of were just like, there's no way, like we're just wasting this character in this performance. So make it kind of all the chips are falling into place for her to take that. So I think obviously I think that brings us for everyone. We're all in agreement there. Still on the same page here for what's going on, but already 2 powerhouse categories and such like that. So so that decides the panel for the actress in a leading role. So the next category that we have here is cinematography. Now, I do know one of us does not agree with, I think, the majority here based on the panel. So I'm curious, Julie, what you chose.
I chose Poor Things because I don't think that the Academy won't give it an award. I think they will give it something.
I disagree. I've got a few.
Okay. You start then.
What did you like about the
Because I agree. I thought it was great.
What did you guys pick?
Oh, I did Oppenheimer. I assume you did too.
I had Oppenheimer.
Truly, I just think it's too much for Oppenheimer. I think that they will try to spread the wealth a little bit. Although, of course, like Oppenheimer was incredibly crafted, I have a hard time. The Oscars always like, I think, to have at least one surprise. And I don't think it's going to come in the big acting categories or anything. I think it's going to be something like this.
I think there's something very positive to say about Poor Things in terms of its cinematography, given the absolute vast array of like lenses, focal points. I mean, from times we are looking through like basically a door handle to these wide, fisheye lenses,
left and right,
and like in normal conversation, right? Like in normal conversation, the backgrounds of when characters are talking are like very out of focus, but like kind of almost rotated and blended, right? Like there's so much unique cinematography on play here that I think the only reason I wouldn't give it is because of how much it lends itself to VFX to achieve a lot of those looks that it needs there, those kind of visual effects and such, versus kind of the raw, like place a camera down and capture these shots with these different angles. That's really the only way that I would see it. Kyle, I'm curious kind of what you would see in that comparison.
No, absolutely. And just from like kind of like the technical lens, it looks like that the Precursor Award, the American Cinematography Guild, chose Hoyt van Hoytema, the cinematographer, for Oppenheimer for that. And it's really, every year the cinematography branch is always just filled with such beautiful, amazing things. Pierto is the cinematographer for Killers of the Flower Moon, which was nominated, but he did 2 films this year. He did Killers of the Flower Moon and he did Barbie. Barbie wasn't nominated, but it's awesome. Like incredible range. This category is always just a feast for the eyes. It seems like Oppenheimer is just going to kind of steamroll in the same way that, like, because it's probably going to win maybe big awards later, it's also going to bleed into these smaller categories. But I mean, Poor Things was incredible. It's dynamic. It's innovative.
It's weird.
It's weird.
It's very
so
weird.
weird.
I love
it.
I've got Oppenheimer here as well. And funny enough, Killers would probably be my second choice there. I love the big sweeping shots.
The cranes and these,
just really great stuff. As someone who lived in Oklahoma for a while too, I love to see it was fun. I loved it. But Hoyt van Hoytema is so talented. He's partnered with Nolan on his last few movies. I think Tenet and Interstellar, and has just done a fantastic job. You talk about those big wide angles but also just incredible tight shots that we get that help convey. We talk about how Cillian Murphy gave this powerhouse performance. Those shots really displayed that on his face, and seeing that in that 70 millimeter in IMAX too. Just seeing every detail on each of the actors' face. Emily Blunt too, just incredible.
All 5 nominees, I believe, shot on film. Except for one, El Conde, which is I think a Chilean film. That's the one that's on digital. But the 4 of them, like, that's awesome to see so much film being represented. I think with Oppenheimer, they had to develop new Kodak stock
for black and white.
For the black and white. It's innovative. It's exciting. It's a great category.
No, I would agree with everything. I think Oppenheimer is the winner here.
Well, there you go. Based on our picks here, Julie Koharik, she's
stand by it.
Yeah, standing by it. I love it.
And it's a strong choice.
I love it. She can laugh at us all the way to the bank when it wins, but
when it wins, you all owe me.
Exactly. So I think it's a great category to go there. And then next,
there's Eric's category.
It's visual effects, baby. This one is mine. It is going to Godzilla -1. I don't care to listen to anything else on this.
You're a big Godzilla fan, aren't you?
Yes, I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I think with this one, when it was put up against the creator, especially I think out of all of them, I think I kind of shuddered a little bit. I still have not seen the creator. Nate, you have, but in that comparison, I was a little nervous given that -1. There are moments where I don't think it necessarily looks incredibly impressive, like the model of Godzilla in some scenes you can kind of see is a little shaky through there, but especially like up against something like the creator where that's kind of how the movie lives and dies is by its VFX. I'm curious kind of what you see in that race between those two.
So actually I saw all 5 of the films in this category. I agree with you. My pick is Godzilla -1. I'm especially impressed with just the small team that they had do this. I do agree there are some times where I felt it was a bit shaky, especially like the opening scene. I felt a little like Godzilla wasn't super strong there. But then like just the scenes in downtown, all the destruction, and it just looked incredible. The creator, I of course thought was phenomenal as well. Gareth Edwards, is always at the top of his game when it comes to impressive visuals. And Greg Fraser was the cinematographer on that. I think he's might be the best in the business right now. He's working on both parts of Dune. The creator, he had the Batman. Just really impressive cinematographer. Which I think that lends to more of how visually I connected with the creator was these beautiful shots rather than so much the visual effects. I would touch on Guardians too. I think is also a competitor here, just because Marvel has. It's been talked about how they've kind of fallen off in the graphics department, but watching Guardians, I was very, very impressed. Everything felt really well done. But I'm with you, Eric. I think Godzilla wins here, and I would love to see that team win.
I think it's an important distinction as well. Before obviously we get to you both, is that VFX, it's a different category than you'd imagine, where there's a lot of components that go into it.
Yeah.
When someone watches something like like Marvel or like Guardians of the Galaxy or something like Godzilla or something like that, they would imagine that it's going to be like the big creatures, right? The big creatures that are in there. But there's a lot more going on. Especially the reason -1 was good to me is when they put out their campaign video, which I think Kyle can touch on pretty well, especially is how much they made use of the little that they would have. That basically one ship set, which was pretty much just right the edge of a battleship, how they turned it into multiple ships throughout the entire movie in terms of building that out. Like, you realize by just using one set, or how they're able to take one set and put it in so many different areas, is how they achieve these looks. It's not just what Godzilla is. So it's a much larger category. So like, if you look at Godzilla, and in some moments I had some struggles where I'm like, yeah, he doesn't look that great. When you realize how much else is going on, you're like, I cannot even believe that this is what they've managed to achieve out of this. So, Kyle, I know you've probably watched their campaign video, in terms of that. Yeah. So I'm curious what you think it has, because obviously this would be the first, I think this is the first nomination ever of a Godzilla movie. For Toho, and then obviously they might be taking it home.
This category seems like it's a kind of a narrative of the two underdogs, right? With the 5 films, 3 of them are these big studio pictures, but 2 of them are kind of these smaller indie films that, Godzilla is a $15 million movie that kind of looks like a $100 million. And then The Creator is an $80 million movie that, through the work of Industrial Light of Magic, kind of looks like a $200 million, alongside the rest of the Marvels and the Napoleons out there. It's really cool to see these kind of guerrilla film styles of The Creator, where they're out filming in 80 different locations in Southeast Asia, just on the ground. And then in Godzilla, it's a team of 45 animators, where the director of the film also has a history of being a visual effects artist as well. He is the first time that a film director has been nominated in the visual effects category since Stanley Kubrick back in 1969. So it's cool to see someone who's leading the film, who's also like the heart and soul of the visual effects campaign. It's really cool to see these two kind of go head to head. And I'm still kind of undecided between the two, but I think I know that we all have opinions about that.
Yeah, Julie.
Speaking of people who don't have opinions, I will say that I didn't see a single one of these movies.
Oh, no.
I chose Godzilla because Eric is so passionate.
He talks a big game.
And I feel good about it, so I'm going to stand by it.
The Godzilla -1
Godzilla
sweep in the
right.
visual effects department. You'll find no complaints for me when it comes to that. So
I do think this is one of the tighter races we
I
could
think
see.
so too.
I think it could really be a toss-up between any of them. All of them looked great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, perfect. Well, that brings us obviously to our next category here is production design. Now, I think this is finally where I think something gets its recognition.
This is where I step in and say Poor Things. I think wins
yeah,
this.
Julie.
This is.
I chose the Barbie movie.
Hey,
as you should. It's a fun one.
Let's hear it. No, let's hear it, because we have had no
Okay.
Barbie representation so far.
I think it's easy. Okay, Poor Things is obviously beautifully made. It's easy to make something weird. It's not easy to make something look not stupid. The Barbie movie could have very easily been stupid.
Absolutely.
And
Fact,
I
correct.
think that the way that the sets were designed or the production of it, was the thing that made it not ridiculous. It was ridiculous in its own way, but in a way that you could still take the serious part seriously.
And it's a throwback to old Hollywood studio style of filmmaking, where they're building these giant, elaborate sets in a warehouse, and it kind of looks a little manufactured, but that's the heart and charm of it.
Exactly.
Usually this category seems to go towards period dramas. That's kind of where there's kind of representation and appreciation. That's kind of where Poor Things is edging it out.
Yep.
Not only being this weird, like 19th century Gothic Victorian, but also this surreal and experiential and expressionistic kind of world that they're building. The thing about Barbie that I find most interesting is that the 2 nominees there, I think Sarah Greenwood and the Katie something, I don't remember her other name, but the 2 of them have 6 prior nominations in this category, never won. So this is hopefully the one time that they finally pull ahead and are able to get that Oscar gold, but they're going to have to beat Poor Things to be able to do it.
Yeah, and Nate, I'm curious, because you obviously have, you've got a pretty solid opinion in terms that the first half is really strong, but when we get to the second, we start to trail off. So I'm curious what your thought is.
The whole opening to the movie and like through the trailers and everything, I was so drawn to the whole Barbie world set.
Right.
I thought was just fantastic. I love how it looks. We've heard a million times about how there was a world shortage on pink paint because they physically did all this stuff, which I thought was awesome. I also love the transitions from Barbie world to the real world with like the practical, like moving parts of the set and all that stuff. I think it's very, very cool. It gets very bland to me in the second half when we get to LA and the real world. I understand that's largely the point. But Poor Things from start to finish, I mean, the practical sets of each individual city that they go to, and they go to several. And then they also have their own little transitions, title cards and all that too, that I thought were fantastic. And so I do think Poor Things win. I think the dark horse here also is Oppenheimer. Again, we talk about Oppenheimer a lot. The Los Alamos set is incredibly...
It's a period piece.
Right. And it's incredibly, when you look at pictures, and it's very historically correct, and everything just looked great. I think that's the dark horse here, but I do think Poor Things wins this one.
I think Oppenheimer definitely is a bit of a dark horse, which is funny to say that in any category.
Right.
But I think when it comes down to colors and it comes down to those kind of visually eye-popping pieces, that's kind of where that category tends to go. I went for Poor Things personally, just because I see the consistency amongst the many locations that are on display there are really exciting, because it feels like when you step into this city, you're kind of waiting for something familiar to show up, right? Like you want something when you go to Paris, that you're expecting some familiarity, but it's anything but. Instead, you're going to all these different venues that are inside and keep you inside and not in the beauty there. But it's just how much is going on around. I just think that pure consistency amidst so much of it, I think carries it forward. Barbie Land is so incredible, and like you said, the transitions are really good too. It just remains to be seen if the Academy is actually going to look at it as that second half dropping the ball per se, and not in a bad way, but in the way it's supposed to throughout the film. Like it depends on how they want to see it based on consistency, or if Barbie uses everything it's got in that set, which it does in Barbie Land, right? It's like everything we've got we're putting into this, if that is enough to carry it forward. That's kind of, I think, the big question in that category.
Certainly would not be surprised to see Barbie win,
No.
or upset about it. I do want to give out my big snub here. Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. I cannot believe
crazy.
I cannot believe it's not
Absolutely
here.
insane.
Just, it's the most Wes Anderson movie that he's ever made. Every shot is immaculately framed and designed. I couldn't believe it wasn't here, but still strong category.
And you're seeing on screen there, that's the three guys are going for Poor Things, and Julie going for Barbie again. So she's
I will be doing this again. So
good.
this is not the last time.
There we go. So perfect. So that does production design. So a little different from costume design, which obviously Poor Things is in a better conversation for there. But here is actor in a supporting role, which I believe we are all locked in on. If I'm going to throw the name out there, but I'm pretty sure Robert Downey Jr. has got this in the bag. I know I was a little skeptical at first as it was kind of coming around, but once the more it kind of sat with me, and I ended up watching this movie like 4 times. It kind of stuck. I know initially my heart told me that Ryan Gosling had a chance kind of in that for Barbie, just because of the significance of his role. But I think when you look at everything over throughout the entire picture, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is unbelievable in how much he manages to pull into that story. I know Ryan Gosling's performance is much of an accessory, as it kind of is the point, is that he's the accessory to Barbie, but I think his performance is unbelievable. So Kyle, curious what you're thinking when it comes to Robert Downey Jr. on this one.
Gosling's definitely second place.
Yep.
He's charming, he's witty. Anytime he's in a room, everyone just adores him. But Robert Downey Jr. is starting the third phase of his career, it seems. He's been very public about the fact that his first phase is kind of the turmoil and, the sobriety and relapse that he consistently experienced in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Finally, the second phase is just dominated by being Iron Man. He is just this figurehead of a massive franchise that pretty much defines movie making in the 2010s and moving forward. He's done with that. He's moving into the later stages of his career, and Oppenheimer is very much a performance where he says, I want to be this version of myself. I want to really double down in this, and he's campaigned so very hard. He's won every precursor award. It's pretty much guaranteed for him. And hey, it's a Lifetime Achievement Award for a really great performance that he really transforms and carries half of that film for.
Downey Jr. for me here. I loved Ryan Gosling. I thought he was fantastic, and I think it's funny kind of the parallel between Gosling here nominated for a very silly comedic role that was Downey Jr.'s last Oscar nomination was for a very funny, silly comedic role for Tropic Thunder. I think Downey Jr. pulls through. The person here that I do want to shout out also, I'm giving all my Poor Things love, but I thought Mark Ruffalo was fantastic.
What an unbelievable
He's maybe my
performance.
favorite part of that movie.
He's wonderful.
I think that if I had to, I think it's between Downey Jr. and Ruffalo here, but I do think Downey wins, but I just want to shout out Mark Ruffalo because, man, he was fantastic. And also coming off, 10 years of Marvel as well. To see him and Robert Downey Jr. both kind of shake that off and just immediately go into these incredible performances was awesome.
You don't even recognize him either. That's kind of the funny part about Ruffalo is you for a second you're like, yeah, that's Mark Ruffalo, but the way he dissolves into this role where he's
just this man child.
Yeah, just this pure the accent he's got, the way he turns his nose up and stuff, and the way that even when he's down groveling, he's still got his nose up in a way that he's just like, you must marry me, like all this like weird type of accent. Like Julie, I don't know, what did you think of this race in particular when it came to supporting?
Well, I will say that we have to think about what the Oscars is thinking, and with the amount of heat that they got and the Golden Globes got, I don't see them not giving Greta Gerwig a nomination and then awarding the man in the movie an Oscar. I think that they probably just won't want to catch heat for that, even though I think Ryan Gosling was amazing.
Right.
But I agree. Downey Jr. takes it.
Downey Jr. I think that seals the deal for us then. That's another category we're all in agreement on. So Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer. So not really a surprise there. I think anyone that's seen it probably can.
Am I the only one who's disagreed on something so far?
Yes.
All right.
I believe so, technically.
It'd be boring if everything was the same.
So I appreciate
you being
I'm trying to play devil's advocate as much as
Absolutely.
possible. So our next category that comes up through here is the original song.
Here we go.
Did we all agree?
What'd you say?
Did we all agree on this one?
Initially, my initial vote was just for kind of the joke to say I'm just Ken because they're performing it. Like, is that, when you perform it at the Oscar, because I remember Remember Me was performed, and that also won it. That also, by the way, if no one has seen that, is probably one of the most hilarious performances of any original song because it sounded horrible. I just remember it sounded horrible and couldn't hit the notes, but it won. So, but I think based on previous awards that has been given and kind of the praise around it, Kyle, I believe this one is probably going to What Am I Made For, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's the Billie Eilish love that everyone's a huge fan of. Honestly, I'm just disappointed that 4 songs from Barbie weren't nominated because I think the Lizzo song of the kind of opening number, and then the Dua Lipa bop.
I love the Dua Lipa
I'm hearing it
bop.
all the time on the radio. It's great. It's fantastic. There's representation from the film Flamin' Hot. I don't know if anyone knows about the product film about the creation of the Flamin' Hot Cheeto.
And is that actually what that movie's about?
Yes. It's not very accurate, but yes, that is what the film's about. And then there is this nomination as well for Kills of the Flower Moon for, I don't know the full information, but it's an original song created by a tribe that they collaborated with, which that's like an amazing thing that's never happened before.
Right.
But yeah, no, definitely What Am I Made For seems to be the front runner with, hey, I'm Just Ken coming up in the rear, I guess.
Yeah, especially with the performance. It also feels like even if I'm Just Ken is not winning it feels like having that performance to kind of key you into that, as one way or another the song kind of leads into it, like even when Frozen, like songs from Frozen were performed, it was because it won an Oscar.
By Adele Dazeem.
Adele Dazeem, yes, one of the classic blunders.
10-year anniversary.
Exactly.
Incredible.
So it feels like we're queuing up, for that to get, to get there.
What Was I Made For, I think is the winner here. I prefer I'm Just Ken. It's a fun song. But What Was I Made For is a great song. And this is one of maybe Barbie's only wins. And I think it's well deserved.
Yeah. I think it's as we flash up that we obviously are all in agreement. I think as well it's just one of those things where the film, it felt like campaigned when it was coming out initially, in its marketing as I'm Just Ken being the song that they were going to market it for because of how ridiculous it is. And then once it settled and it got into awards season, it felt like they started to kind of opt for this song to kind of be the song associated with the film.
And this would be Billie's second Oscar in just the past few years because she just won one for the James Bond.
For the James Bond,
exactly. No Time to Die.
Yeah.
I do appreciate though when I don't think I'm Just Ken should win, but I appreciate that they acknowledge. For example, Gosling's performance in comedy, and the song is obviously funny. So I at least appreciate that they're acknowing comedy, which is not always the case.
It's hard to do for them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So next up, after original song, we had to space this one out to see kind of what was coming up through here. So actress in a supporting role. So I initially. I had to make a last-minute change because I just didn't know if I could fall on the sword for it. But I genuinely, to play devil's advocate, think that America Ferrera has more of a chance in this than people are giving her.
I agree.
I really do, because I just think in terms of all the buzz around this film, the buzz around some of the snubs and such there, I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of see, my pick went to Divine Joy Randolph, but America Ferrera's just kind of lurking there, and I feel like she could snatch it.
If Divine didn't win this, it would be one of the biggest upsets of the past few
People
years.
would be very mad.
She's won every
Right.
single precursor award. It's basically a giant red carpet just for her.
Right.
Everyone adores that performance. She's similar to Lily Gladstone, the emotional core of
Right.
that movie. It really is like a lock and key for Divine. But yeah, you're absolutely right. America Ferrera really wasn't even on the short list of people probably to be nominated in this category.
Right.
And then she did, and everyone was like, oh wow, there's so much more love and appreciation for this
Right.
role than was originally expected, which is great to see. I just don't think it'll be enough to overcome, but I'm glad that we're getting the recognition.
I feel like I'm in there. I feel like just something irks me about this category, that we're set for an upset somewhere.
There will be one somewhere.
And for some reason, for me, it falls on this one. Like, I love that performance, and my pick is for Divine Joy Randolph, and that's kind of what it's always been. But when I was sitting down and really fill out a ballot, I was like, dang, do I really think that America Ferrera could sneak it? And something about it kind of made me feel that way.
Something about the Barbie movie is that it does have its moments where it lulls. And it seems like in the nominations and the things that you guys are thinking it might have a chance at winning are those like big peaks. It really goes up and down. And the big peak for most people was her monologue. So I think that is, I don't think it'll happen, but I see your point.
She is also presenting, which sometimes does actually take you out of the race if you're going to present. I feel like in previous history, that's always been the case, that if someone goes up to present something, they usually aren't winning it.
Yeah.
So
I do. I think it goes to Divine Joy Randolph. I will sing the Holdovers' praises from the top of a mountain. I think this movie is fantastic. I think all three of the leads in this movie are phenomenal.
Yes.
I was a little. It was a long shot. I would have really loved to see Dominic Sessa get into the supporting role.
But he will be there, and I cannot wait to see what he says on the red carpet.
Yeah.
There's always something funny.
But. And I loved America Ferrera. I thought she was fantastic. I loved Emily Blunt. I thought was phenomenal in Oppenheimer. I think those are really the only two that could compete with Randolph. But I mean, her performance was just great. And I would love to see her awarded there.
it really is kind of, I don't want to say an issue, but kind of that format of just how much screen time she gets, of how much screen time and how much influence she has on the film as a whole versus kind of someone like Emily Blunt, who has kind of those big powerhouse moments. Same with America Ferrera, where kind of it rests on those big moments to kind of show where it's like, hey, this is a legit performance, versus kind of Divine Joy Randolph, where it's like they knew what they had.
Yeah.
And she has so many scenes where she's able to just actually carry it through instead of kind of being like a quick announcement, I'm here, and then you kind of keep that with you. So that it's one of those questions again of consistency versus who makes like the biggest impact on a picture as a whole. But I think her scene of going home, you know, when she goes home and sees everything, is just devastating. And I think that just kind of sealed the deal on the full picture. So hey, we're all in agreement once again. I couldn't stick by my idea of thinking America Ferrera steals it, but I'm saying if there's one category I feel like an upset is coming, I feel like it would be this one. And so I'm keeping my eyes locked on it just because I think something might be up. Something's afoot. I don't know, but something's always got to be that way. Now here's the real debate, because I think it's really going to start getting messy. So the last two we're really finishing up is screenplays here. So adapted screenplay. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, adapted screenplay is basically the script coming from something that already exists. So it wasn't just thought of out of nowhere. So in certain cases, like if it were Killers of the Flower Moon, which is not in here, but like based on a book, you know, based on something previous. Oppenheimer is based on a book that is referenced in the beginning. Barbie being adapted. This is why I brought Kyle onto this panel, is because Kyle's analysis of how Barbie got into this category is huge. So the only thing I will say here is I think this is Greta Gerwig's best chance, even if she was in Best Director category. So Kyle, I'm curious kind of if you can expand on that.
Absolutely. There was a bit of controversy of whether or not Barbie belonged in adapted or original. If it had stayed in original, it probably would have had a stronger shot at winning. So this was definitely making it more difficult, because it did win some of the precursor awards where it was slotted into the adapted. Now, usually we look at these precursor awards to try and figure things out, but because of the strikes, the Writers Guild of America, their awards are actually not going to happen for another month till now. So we're kind of a little bit in this like weird place of being like, we don't know who all the front runners frontrunners are. Barbie is definitely there, partly because it's a great film written by the auteur of the film, Greta Gerwig, and her now husband, Noah Baumbach, who are both like just Academy darlings. It's a film that really plays with your preconceived notions of what Barbie is and is trying to have a conversation about that. The only thing is, can it overcome kind of the other frontrunners in this race, which seems to be American Fiction? A lot of the Academy voters like to use the screenplay category to try and anoint someone new to say, hey, you're like a new talent, we really like you. And Cord Jefferson is just been basically doing journalist work for the past 15 years and has now elevated himself to filmmaker with a writing and directing credit for the very first time. And American Fiction is connected with a lot of people. It's gonna have to beat American Fiction and able to get this category. I think the two of them have a close shot with each other.
Sure. Julie, on the, obviously you brought up before is the snub initially, so I'm curious kind of what you think, if you think this is when they're gonna give their apology award for Barbie.
Well, I think that something I brought up about Greta Gerwig, and I understand why she wasn't nominated in the directing category, but not a lot of other people could have made this movie, if that makes sense. So I think that it's, I mean, even in the trailers, we didn't really know what was coming until we actually sat down and saw it. I don't think that a lot of other people could have pulled this off. I don't know that I agree that it should be an adapted, because it is just so, I mean, there's no way we could have known that this is what it was going to be. I'm pretty confident in Barbie.
Sure. Nate?
Yeah, I have Oppenheimer winning here as well. I've read the book. I read the book after the movie. And seeing what Nolan pulled from this book and put onto the screen is really impressive. And being able to turn what is a story that anyone can accessibly look up online. This is history, this is factual stuff, and turning it into like this thriller and this very intense. I thought that was incredibly impressive. I did see American Fiction as well. Really enjoyed that. I think more than a lot of maybe some critics did, or people who talk about the Oscars. People aren't really talking about American Fiction so much. But I really loved what they did with that adaptation. I don't know if any of you have seen it.
I did not know.
But I thought it was very impressive how they were able to take it from a book and then also kind of display it as a book on the screen as he's writing it. And then it all of a sudden, at the end, turns into a screenplay that's also being put into into film. So I think that's also a strong candidate. Barbie is just, again, this is a tough category for it to be in. It's adapted from a toy, obviously, but the story is not pulled from anywhere. That's where I feel it should have gone into original, which, as we'll talk about, is another, that's a two-horse race for me there. Yeah, I mean, this could go any number of ways.
And Oppenheimer does have a long shot in the fact that if Academy voters just decide, when they're voting, we're probably maybe going to give it the big award, so we'll probably just give it all the other small awards too. It very well could happen. It probably won't, but never count it out.
It's important as well that the controversy as well is just overwhelming on it, and that the Academy, for people that don't know this, they're very influenced. They're not this complete entity out there. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I know it's not even that large, the amount of people, that vote on it and such. So it's that type of controversy is going to be felt. The Gerwig controversy is huge in terms of her not getting in there. They know this, and so it's for it to be an adapted, it's a much harder category. I think it doesn't make sense that it's adapted, like you said. They only called it adapted because it came from a toy.
Yeah.
I don't get that. I don't see how that makes any sense in terms of where you can create a screenplay off of that just because it's a licensed property. But
do they get to choose which category of the two, or did the Oscars decide that
the Academy will decide what it goes into, and their logic.
I think what hurt it honestly is in the opening titles it says based on the Mattel toy Barbie, and then people see that based on, and they're like, oh, okay, well,
it's adapted from something, but
it's from something.
It's not. It's a completely original story using an established IP. I don't really see that, so it's tough. But I think, man, I don't want to call it a pity vote, but I think Barbie gets it based on there. So there we go. For some first disagreements there, Kyle, with American Fiction. That's a fun one to go with. Julie and I in the Barbie school, and then Nate going with Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. And obviously, Nate, we're talking about both screenplays. You're talking about originals, two-horse. Tell me what you got right.
Yeah, so this is, right off the bat, I look at this, it's between Anatomy of a Fall and The Holdovers. As I've said a million times, I will scream for the Holdovers from the top of a mountain, so that's my pick here, is for the Holdovers to win. I think realistically, Anatomy of a Fall, probably it goes that way. Both movies are just really incredible works of, just original storytelling. When it comes to Anatomy of a Fall, it's a courtroom drama that you're invested in for over 2.5 hours. That's hard to do, I think. The Holdovers tells a really incredible story of class and race. It manages to be funny. It manages to be emotional. All the performances are incredible. And I think that probably the third here would be Past Lives, which I also loved. But I don't see Past Lives winning any of its nominations, so I lean towards the Holdovers here.
Julie, did you see any of these?
I did.
Yeah.
Past Lives was actually my favorite movie of the year. I picked Past Lives. I would love for it to be Past Lives. Do I think it will happen? No.
There's a chance.
I would love it.
No, there's a chance for sure.
I agree that I think it would be Anatomy of a Fall, but just for the sake of manifesting, I'm putting my money on Past Lives. It just, from the second, it's one of those this year that's understated, and it doesn't have to go over the top to pull you in. You're just immediately in love with the characters. And that has to do with the acting too, of course, but the writing was just so beautiful.
And Anatomy of a Fall, it's interesting because it's a French film, right? It's been submitted, and it's about 60% French language, 40% English. It technically qualifies. But the fun thing about this is the fact that it got 5 nominations, and one of them was not in international, where it really could have. But there's kind of politics going on behind the scenes with regard to the French government and their body that is able to submit. They submitted a film called Taste of Things, which actually didn't even get nominated in that category. So Anatomy of a Fall gets these 5 nominations almost as a last-minute surprise, and oh wow! And there's this huge late rush surge to support this film. It's kind of rushing to the front of this category, but Holdovers is still there, and maybe Past Lives in the rear. I don't know. There's a lot of cool things that can happen here.
Yeah,
no, this is another tight race, I think.
I know for myself, my vote went to Anatomy of a Fall just because of the just absolute how tight that screenplay is. There is just nothing missing, and it's even when you think it's throwing you for a loop, in particular in relation to one of the evidence pieces submitted to the court, for people that have seen that, you start to think, you're like, wow, is this really kind of a MacGuffin in a sense, where it's just did this need to come out? But the way it sticks its own landing of how it explains something that could be so incriminating or like that, it's just unbelievable. There is so much control over what is happening here, to the point where when they're adding those elements that you discover as an audience in that courtroom, as evidence is laid out, none of it feels like it was pulled out of nothing. It actually makes sense, and it begins to tell you so much of a grander story. Holdovers was easily my second. This was a really, really tough category for me to figure out, but for me, Anatomy of a Fall is just such a tight screenplay where just no beat is missed.
Yeah,
and they didn't make it feel like SVU or anything. They
No,
I was really impressed with Justine Triet this year. I love that she's in the directing category as well. We'll talk about that later, but just really impressive stuff, and Sandra Hüller as well. Just
unbelievable.
It was really good.
Crazy performance.
Do you think Barbie would have won if it was in this category?
Had a much better shot.
Much better chance.
Much better.
Yeah.
Probably would have been that and Anatomy of a Fall.
Well, you couldn't see because the graphic came up in time, but Julie sure flipped the hair as she turned her way to check out the graphic, so I think her point is made. But yeah, we have another diverse category. Again, Kyle and I together on Anatomy of a Fall, Nate going with Holdovers. I think we might see that there, and then Past Lives, Julie manifesting that. So let's see if it comes up. I would love it too. I would not
Past Lives, great. Celine Song, also really great work too.
Yeah, and then next up, I think there's only two more left, guys. So we've got directing, which I think is going hand in hand with its best picture. Christopher Nolan's masterpiece, really. I mean, this is his year. I mean, it's so hard to see it any other way. Look at this category. I mean, how stacked that is. But it just with everything currently there on display in Oppenheimer, what it brought to the table, I truly struggle to see how there's even a solid second place. I can look across these and see a case to be made, but that feels pointless because it's just so firmly Christopher Nolan, I think, when it comes to that. So
yeah, I'm in agreement. Nolan is at just firing on all cylinders in this thing. This is clearly his best film that he's made so far in an incredible library of movies that he's already put out. Some of the direction choices here just had my jaw on the floor. Just stuff that you don't see in these big blockbusters. And it just really resonated, I think, with people too. The fact that this movie made almost $1 billion, an R-rated,
An R-rated
3-hour historical period piece. It's just incredible. But as you said, this entire category is stacked. I know we've talked about the snub of Greta Gerwig. I don't see any of these 5 being able to be taken off of this list, in my opinion. I think she's more than worthy of being here. But again, it's just so stacked. It's all of its quality.
And I wrote a 3,000-word article on our Beam from the Booth Substack about that kind of snub and the experiences around it and all the intricate details. I'll just say essentially that she was taken out of that spot by both Justine Triet and Jonathan Glazer, two kind of international filmmakers. And it's a reflection of the fact that the Academy in the past few years has really branched out into becoming an international body, bringing membership in. I just said recently that they're an 11,000 membership group. They used to be 5,000. And just about basically in the past 10 years, they've been bringing in a lot more members, and a lot of them have been international, and that's why they've been getting a lot more recognition. That's why Parasite won back in 2019. Yeah. And so the ability to essentially start recognizing foreign talent means that some of our home talent, some people like Greta Gerwig, who was definitely a shortlist in this category, is going to get kind of moved out of it. Right. It's interesting to know that like this is a year with Scorsese making an amazing masterpiece, and he's not even really in conversation for winning it because Nolan is kind of just the most prolific guy right here. He's been nominated multiple times in the past, never single one.
He's never won?
He's never won a single Oscar, and this is why the Academy is finally saying, we're sorry, we haven't recognized you before, we're giving it to you for this.
So wasn't
familiar with your game. Sorry, we weren't familiar with your game, Mr. Nolan. So yeah, Julie?
I mean, I think we all agree on Christopher Nolan. If you guys had to pick a second, if you personally have someone else that you'd like to see, who would it be? Is there even anyone that you would?
Jonathan Glazer, just because it's so kind of experimental.
I was going to go with Glazer as well because it's just, that's not a typical movie you see getting this kind of love from the Academy. Again, some of those choices there, again, I was just floored. The use of audio and sound there and the lack of sound at some parts was just incredible.
Another situation where in that category, it's basically just going to be Oppenheimer versus Zone of Interest. Zone of Interest, which really should win that category. The whole reason the film's nominated in Best Picture is because of the sound use, but Oppenheimer might just steal it.
No, it's just Glazer would be my second here. And then honestly, I might have Justine Triet third even. I really love our international outing here is great.
I love it. I love it too. If I had to go second, though, I would actually probably say Scorsese. I think I said that to Nate off camera. Is that just that the amount of it's another 3-hour film, but to
3.5.
3.5. Yeah, sorry, 3.5. But the amount of moving pieces in that, I don't see how any other human being would be able to direct something like that. Like even up against Oppenheimer, when you see that, like I still think Nolan had it right, but I think that's because he picked exactly the scale that he could push it to. But like Scorsese, like this scale, I don't know any other filmmaker that could actually take that on and produce it even the way that it was. So it's just like for me, like I love the international, Jonathan Glazer as well. I mean, like with Zone of Interest, I love that film. Yeah. But it's just when I look at something like Killers, it's just like who else?
Yeah. Well, we talked about too off camera about the ending to that movie and how it was just kind of. That was such a bold decision to end the movie that way. Yeah. And the fact that it was personally him there, in that final scene, I don't think anyone else could have done it.
No one else could have done that. Nobody would have thought of it.
And so,
so it brings us together. It's Christopher Nolan's sweep, which I think primes us up for our final category of the show here, which is Best Picture, and I don't think you're going to see any difference as far as I'm aware. Julie, I'm curious because you're giving me kind of a glance.
No, I picked Oppenheimer, but I feel like it's just so odd that the bigger categories are almost the most boring ones because we all kind of see how it's going. Is that normal that it's all so obvious?
It's happened a lot this year and then last year with Everything Everywhere All at Once. And what's, there have been upsets, the year that Coda won and beat Power of the Dog, but what you require is you need a clear second place, right? this was a great year for movies.
Right.
We have so many amazing things to choose from. When Barbie is maybe the 5th or 6th like most likely to win on the list, that means like, oh my gosh, they're all competing for second place, which means you can't coalesce around a single film to say, let's beat Oppenheimer.
Right.
It's just kind of an unbeatable matchup at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
They each bring their own unique thing to the table. I mean, looking at this graphic is unbelievable of how much came out this year and how much diversity is involved in that. You know, even when you start to think of emotion, you see Past Lives and Holdovers, but then you realize how different they are from each other. It's just there are so many options here. There was small rumblings that Zone of Interest was making a play, but I never thought it would stick. Like I think it's great that it's in here. It deserves its thing, but there's no way it would have overtaken that.
Yeah.
But it's unbelievable when you look at this list, just how many movies in here are seriously as incredible as they were, and it makes it such a shame because it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Oppenheimer came out this year.
Yeah.
Because if it's not this year, this conversation would take up the entire length of this episode because there's just so much in here. But it's just, how do you say no to something like Oppenheimer?
No,
2 years ago, Past Lives would have been a front runner. Now it's like in 9th place.
Right.
I know, it's incredible.
Right.
And I know immediately after seeing it for the first time, both of us talked in a newsroom here, and our first thought was that was possibly the best made film of the last 20 years.
Right.
It was incredible. Everything about it was phenomenal. I don't think there's any way it loses this category, but also, I mean, from top to bottom, 1 through 10, all of these, there's not a single choice here that I think is out of place. I think all of them work. Some are obviously stronger than others. If we want to talk about a second place, you know what I'm going to say. It's the Holdovers for me. And then I would probably put Poor Things in 3rd this year. But again, all of these from top to bottom, I saw all 10 of them, loved all 10 of them.
Yeah, Kyle, thoughts on Oppenheimer for Best Picture here?
No, I mean, Christopher Nolan is right now at the peak of his power. He is arguably the most influential and prolific filmmaker working today. And it took him a long 25-year career to get to essentially this point, where it's essentially been building up a massive fan base and respect and influence in the industry. And now he kind of commands so much influence that he can essentially just walk in, say, I'm going to make a movie, and then everyone says, okay, and then they're going to go watch a 3-hour-long biopic about this kind of dark, intense subject matter, and it's going to make almost $1 billion. He's at the peak of his career.
Barbie at the same time.
Exactly, and the two of them kind of, Barbenheimer being a partnership between this is the reason why it's also this much of a juggernaut.
Absolutely.
Barbie was able to benefit from Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was able to benefit from Barbie. They're inextricably linked together, and I think that's an interesting movie story of 2013.
Yeah, and they're going to try and recreate it, many times. No longer, what it used to be was the idea of pushing each other out of a release spot, and neither of them decided to budge. It was each of them battling again. Yeah. They decided not to, and it worked out perfectly just because of the distinct subject matter. I don't know when we will ever see a phenomenon like that again.
No clue.
I just don't. I think it's going to be incredible. I think a second place, I agree with you, it's Holdovers. I think Holdovers would take second place for me personally. I just,
Great, just a great movie.
It's comfortable to say that because I know it won't win it. So it's like I'm just like I'm feeling for you. Love that movie. Yeah, incredible stuff.
It's Alexander Payne's best in my opinion.
Yeah,
and he's got a great library as well. Sideways is a great movie, but yeah, this is his best.
Yeah, and I think
Nebraska too nominated for Best Picture a while back. That was a great movie, but.
And that takes us to the end. That's Best Picture. Oppenheimer sweep. Julie, disappointed to say it, but
I can sit here and say Past Lives and Barbie were my favorites, and they were. But you cannot deny just how grand Oppenheimer was and the scale of it. So I think it deserves it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Absolutely. Well, and that brings it. That's not, of course, all the categories, but that is the ones we wanted to talk about, in the meantime here, just to be able to kind of hit on some of the big hitters through there. So thank you all for watching. Obviously, you can find us all on 13 Kyle. You can find him with the Grand Rapids Film Society. He does write for the Beam from the Booth Substack, which is the newsletter associated with the Film Society. I also write for them too. So you can catch us both on there. You can read his entire series of this deep dive into the Oscar categories. It's incredible. It's been over the past 3 issues.
That's right. And we can also read your Godzilla piece.
Apparently, yeah. If you want to read about how good that is, then you can do that as well. But please check him out at Beam from the Booth's newsletter with the Grand Rapids Film Society here. Thank you for coming on. Obviously, thank you all for doing this here. Oscars, of course, this Sunday.
Yeah. And this Sunday. And I want to plug next year's Best Picture winner, Dune Part 2, in theaters right now.
Yes.
Go see it. Denis Villeneuve is going to win a bunch next year.
Well, there you go. And we'll be back next year to talk about it then. So thank you all for coming. So appreciate your time. And enjoy the Oscars.